Okay.
Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Freedom Solutions Show. Today, you're going to love it. I have Judy Whalen. She's the founder and CEO for the Center for Strategic Change, and she is a strategic growth expert. And today, we're going to be talking about strategic planning for solopreneurs. Or whatever. She'll explain more about all of that. Hey, Judy, how are you?
Well, hello, Eric, and thank you for having me as a guest on your show. I really appreciate it.
You betcha. This is going to be fun. So, we'll start out. Just please tell us your story and how you got here.
Oh, goodness, my story. Well, first of all, you have to realize my story starts long ago because I've already been in business for 30 years. So prior to starting the Center for Strategic Change, I was serving as an executive director for state and national associations. And that is where I got exposed to strategic planning. As an executive director, we met with all the other executive directors of all the other states. And one of the things that small subgroup did is we brought in a woman to do strategic planning just with that small group of how we were going to impact across the country.
Sure.
And at that time I was representing professional engineers. So I was engaged in the process, but what fascinated me more was how she facilitated the process. And I'm going to just say the bug bit me.
Yes.
I just wanted to know more about it. And as I worked with my own members within the organization I was hired to represent and working with the board of directors, I had all kinds of opportunities to facilitate their strategic thinking about where did they want their organization to go. And so at one point I had an opportunity to develop a business plan because I was also their lobbyist. So I developed a business plan, and that kind of got the bug going even further about, okay, I could start my own business. And so eventually I took that leap.
Yeah.
And believe me, it was just
gulp and go, right?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, okay, so the leap actually came because at one point I had moved on to working within a private firm and I got laid off. I mean, this was back in the 80s when everything went downhill.
Right.
And so that was the first time in my professional career I had ever been, let's call it, at loose ends. There was no job. And it was like, okay, sometimes you need the big swift kick in the pants to take that leap of faith. Because if you've got a steady income coming in, you're in this comfort zone and it's kind of hard to walk out that door and make a change.
Yeah.
When the door is already closed behind you, it's like,
yeah, what's next? That happened to me too, by the way. That's how I ended up here.
Well, and for any of your listeners who either have gone through that experience and are still trying to figure out where they're going, it was the true gift to me. In the end, you don't know that initially right at the beginning.
Right. Doesn't feel like it at the time. It does not at all feel like it. Well, so
that's how I got here. I started the business.
Yeah. So this is actually perfect because when you started, like in the context of starting your business around strategic planning. So, tell us about strategic planning and why it's so important, and then we'll get into how you help people and stuff.
Okay, so I guess the first thing I want to just help your listeners understand, strategic planning is different than business planning when you're putting your business together and you're looking for an investor. So, if you just set that piece aside for the moment.
Well, let's say a business plan can serve two purposes. One is you can have it as an operating plan for like your year or 3-year horizon or whatever, or the other is you can use it as the case for people to invest in your business.
Yes. And there are elements, they'll see that there are elements of strategic planning that are also aligned with business planning, but they are not one and the same thing. So strategic planning is, I'm going to just frame it this way, is that it's typically used by businesses, nonprofit organizations that are already in existence, solopreneurs. Solopreneurs are a big piece of this. to help them think strategically, because there's a big difference between strategic thinking about where do you want your business to go to be, and the tactical thinking that we do day to day in our operations. There's a big difference between that. Now, so strategic planning is incredibly important because it helps you know where do you want to go. It helps you know when you've arrived, because we oftentimes don't realize that we've maybe achieved what we set out to achieve.
I call that what does done look like?
Exactly. Well, it answers those 4 questions. Where do you want to go? How will you know when you've arrived? How are you going to get there? And that's where some of that tactical thinking comes in. And then how do you measure your results? And so smart companies use it because it provides this, I call it the framework, within which they make decisions and they take action. And it helps guide the allocation of what I call those scarce resources.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, you only have so much time and
exactly
money available. Yeah.
You said the biggest resource that people often overlook is it's people's time that is the biggest resource, because we always think about it in terms of what's the financial resources.
Yeah.
Okay. The other piece of it is it helps you structure your game plan before you allocate the financial resources. So people often get this backwards. They think, oh, I have this amount of budget, and so this is what I can do. Where strategic planning is all about what are the right things for you and your business to do. Right. And then your budget becomes the financial representation of
versus sort of doing stuff because it's inexpensive or some other sort of like coming at it from the money side, like you got it. The cart before the horse. The cart before the horse, exactly. So it's figuring out what are the best things that make you the most viable, competitive, and advance your business in the direction you want it to go. Figure that out first. And then you allocate your resources, which includes your time, your financial resources, staffing, if you need staffing, who else needs to be involved, who's going to be the champion to make sure this gets done. Even so like goodwill and stuff like that, if you calling in or making requests and all that kind of stuff. Right, right. So that in a nutshell is why you do strategic planning. And the thing is, a lot of people figure, especially for solopreneurs, they figure, oh, I don't need to do that because I've actually had solopreneurs tell me this. Well, I'm so small, I don't need to do that. And after serving organizations for 30 years, I would say if anybody really needs to do it, it is small business owners and solopreneurs. And I'm in that same ball game. It's just you and your vision. That's it. I mean, you've got stuff you can offer, but it's really you. Exactly. And our resources are basically us. Yeah. And what we bring to the table. Where in a large organization, they have, multiple departments, they have multiple people. So there's a little bit more, I'm going to say, wiggle room for them. Although if you talk to them right now, depending upon the economy, there isn't. But solopreneurs and small business owners are so, I'm going to say their time is so focused on serving their clients or their customers and finding those new ones. That is so critically important to know what is the direction that you're taking your business. Because you could be serving the wrong client base. You could be spending time on things that aren't going to move you in the direction that will really benefit your business. Right. Or move you in a direction that you don't end up realizing, no, I didn't want to do that. Well, and that happens. I've seen it happen. And when you were saying along comes that shiny object syndrome. Somebody says, oh, you should be doing this. And so they go down another path. Right. And what I would encourage them to do is before you follow someone's advice who says, oh, you should be doing this, get real clear on what you as the business owner decide you should be doing. Yeah. Because I've also discovered that my clients, whether they're a solopreneur, a small business owner, or a big business owner,
they have the answers inside of them. And they just get all this clutter that, there's all this stuff that keeps feeding into them that they can't necessarily see their own answers.
I
And so part of
so
strategic
understand that. Yes.
planning, a big part of it is getting the clarity. And
Well,
sometimes
that's actually, so actually we're actually, because I was going to ask you, how does somebody go about strategic planning?
okay, well,
And I think you're just starting into that. Like, number one, clarity.
Yep. Well, even before clarity, if you're going to start strategic planning as a small business owner, solopreneur, even a big business owner, because I do this with all my clients, the very first step is you have to spend time thinking about, all right, I want to take this project on, because it truly is just like any other piece of your business. I want to take this on. What resources do I
Like
need?
the project being doing the strategic planning.
Doing the strategic planning, yes. What resources do I need to make sure this is successful? How will I fit this into the time frames and the time constraints that my business already has? How will I find the expertise that I need to guide this process if I don't know how to do it myself? How will I sustain this once the front end piece of the thinking is done? How will I commit to making sure we take action and we sustain it and we measure?
Yeah, the
That's
follow through.
yes, that's and there is that commitment to it. It's like with any other project you take on as a business owner. How am I going to
That's
make
the
sure
first
this
step.
is successful?
Like, basically
right.
commit to it and establish it. Like, think of it as this is a project. I'm going to.
Yep. It's a project, just like anything else.
And
Second
then,
step is understanding the environment in which you operate. So that's where the market research comes in. And typically small business owners, solopreneurs have some good idea of the environment, but not the whole environment. So there's ways that they can get access to information that helps them understand what trends are coming down the pike that may impact their business. Are there new regulations that are being developed? What are your competitors? Most small business owners and solopreneurs understand what their competitors are doing.
Yep.
Pretty much. But there's information that's available to them there's all kinds of professional associations, societies that provide information. They're probably members of some organization that represents the industry they're in. And they can get information that way. And their public library is a huge source. So it's
sort of, I guess that without getting too deep into it, that's sort of what they would call secondary market research, like what's the available info. Then there's primary, where you talk to your individual.
Exactly. And they can be doing a survey of their current customers. They could do what we call intercept interviews. I mean, that's the market research term. But when if they're a business where you've got people coming in and out, they can do a quick intercept interview, asking their customer 2 or 3 questions and gathering information from them. So there's all kinds of different ways to get.
So there's the market research. So you've committed to the project, you're doing your research.
Yep. And then the third piece is really getting the clarity. Market research is about clarity. Third step is getting clarity about what are the core values that drive their decisions and actions and the behavior they expect of their employers, their employees, their vendors. So core values and revisiting what's their purpose. Getting clarity about the purpose. Now, the fancy word for that is mission. So some organizations call it their mission statement, but what it really is what is the purpose of your business? And being able to write that out in simple, clear words so everybody can understand the purpose, because that gets lost sometimes when push comes to shove. It gets lost, or when a new opportunity comes up, and those come along all the time. You have to look at that opportunity and say, yes, is it aligned with our mission, with our purpose?
One of the things that I dabble in this myself is like, a huge thing about strategy is not only saying what you are going to do, but what you're not going to do.
Exactly. And that's the piece of clarity that this whole process helps them get. Because the end result is they will have hopefully no more than 3 big key strategic initiatives, and everything that they function and do after that will fit under those big 3 key strategic initiatives.
Mhm. Yes.
So that's, their mission. And then the next step is where do they want their business to be? They pick that time frame. Most of my clients right now are picking in the 3-year time frame. Where do they want to be in 3 years?
Mhm.
And that has changed over the 30 years I've been in business. It was like, way back when they'd be looking out 10 years. Well, now
Who knows?
things change so quickly, and it depends on the industry they're in.
Right.
Because my clients who are in IT and healthcare are looking maybe a year. That's because their industry is just so in
So
flux.
fluid. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's vision. Then it's a matter of, okay, let's do the strategic thinking to figure out what are those key strategic initiatives. And we look at, are there any critical issues? And if there's critical issues, those have to be handled immediately. You don't base a strategic plan on anything that's a critical issue. You address those. And then it's a matter of figure out what are the priorities. So we do a brain dump. And then we have a lot of discussion about what came out of the brain dump.
Mhm.
And then we start prioritizing. And then we look for where are those big umbrellas. What invariably, the things that come up initially will be a facet of a bigger key strategic initiative.
Yeah.
So, and then,
Yeah. And then where does that sort of fit in
Yeah.
the sequence of the
right.
Mhm.
And we take those key strategic initiatives and develop the action plan. So the action plan has one goal, but it might have multiple objectives. So you might have one goal, but 2 or 3 different objectives. And then each one of those objectives gets a detailed action plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you've got the action plan developed, your game plan for how you're going to measure your results is all part of that. And then comes the real strategic planning. That's when you start the implementing. And so often people will say, let's do strategic planning, especially if it's at an organizational level. And they like that front end thinking piece, and then they're done, and they're not so excited about all the implementation.
There was a book I remember I read years ago, Strategy into Action.
Yes. The whole key
Like,
of this is,
oops, there's that part.
well, the definition of strategy is a plan of action that produces the results, the outcome.
Yeah.
And so this is all about action. And if you have that game plan as a solopreneur, then you just work that plan. That's what guides your everyday activities, and it guides your decisions and where you allocate your resources. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it makes life a lot simpler.
I agree with you completely. So people have a lot of ideas about strategic planning and all that. So what are some of the common myths?
Okay.
And I'll say, how would you debunk them?
Okay, well, the one we already started to address, the one myth is I'm too small, I don't need it. And I have actually had solopreneurs say that to me.
Yeah. And you made the clear case for that.
Clear. It's incredibly important. Another one is it costs too much. Well, there's a whole bundle of different ways that this can unfold, and you can do it. And so a solopreneur can do the market research themselves. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have clients that we do the market research either totally for them, or we do it with them and us. There's ways to reduce the cost. There's also, when I started thinking about how can I help solopreneurs with strategic planning, the biggest thing is the cost. Is they look at this as how can I get a return on investment, and I can tell them all kinds of ways. But I launched an online course so that they can actually do a strategic plan totally on their own based upon what I guide them through in the course, and that they could do for less than $2,000. Where a typical plan, over the years of my business, range from anywhere typically between $8,000 on a very low end to $140,000 or more, depending upon what activities they want for market research, and there's all kinds of pieces there.
Right.
So it's the cost that inhibits them. Another is they don't have the time. And when somebody says that to me, that's another big reason to do strategic planning.
Yeah.
Because strategic planning helps you be more effective and efficient with your time.
Mhm.
And part of strategic planning is, how do you incorporate this in your business without giving up your life outside of your business?
Yeah.
And there's I'm kind of, this is one of my really hot buttons, is I don't want to help an entrepreneur grow their business if they lose their life outside their business, because that's not, being successful is being successful as a whole integrated individual. And a
Yes.
business is part of our life, but so are the other things outside. So
Yeah. And you want to be very effective at the things that you're doing in your business, so that,
yes.
so I think about the Mark Twain said something like, I am so sorry I didn't have the time to write you a shorter letter. Because that boiling it down to the point, being concise,
Yes.
takes an extra step, but then it pays off.
Yes. And the strategic planning takes away all those things that we're doing that either aren't effective or are taking us down those paths that really aren't going to move you in the direction you want to go. And so it keeps you focused on what is it that we really, really need to be doing, that they've decided that that's the direction they want to go. And so it gets rid of all that extraneous stuff.
Yes.
And,
So
and keeps you focused.
maybe it'd be helpful to, I'm just realizing the time. Do you have an example or two of folks that you've helped?
Sure.
And we
Okay.
can kind of, yeah.
Let me start with an example of a small business owner, very small business owner, had 2 employees at the time. One was functioning quite well, and then there was some churning with the other one.
Yes.
Okay, so I did strategic planning with the team, and they did do the clarifying of their core values, which they then realized made a difference in terms how they served their customers.
Interesting.
And wrote a very succinct, clear core value statement that they also used in their marketing,
Mhm.
which helped them. Also, they got very clear on the purpose of the business, because the business had started out as a solopreneur, and then she added a staff person and then added another.
Right.
And it's important, even for people who are already on board, to go back and understand what is the real purpose.
Yeah.
And so went through the whole process. They developed their action plan. And most interestingly enough, the action plan, from my perspective, helped her navigate the changes caused by the pandemic. Because they were already clear. They had their core values, they were clear, and the pandemic was a challenging time for small businesses. So if you didn't have clarity before, you were really kind of more confused.
So they were able to, you're faced with something like that, you're faced with a lot of choices.
Oh, yes.
And you can, but if you're really clear, then you're like, that one makes sense. That's a line. That is a rabbit.
Well, and there was the commitment that, okay, we know what this business is. We know the benefit to the customers, because they had done some of their own intercept interviews for their market research. And they became even more committed to keep that business afloat during the pandemic, because there was the opportunity where she did say to me, maybe I should just close. And if you just close, then what?
Yeah.
Then you've got all these other choices you still have to make. And so she survived the pandemic, went right back and continued the strategic planning. And she got financing from the bank. She's moving her office. She's added 3 additional staff people. One person left because what was moving forward wasn't aligned with the one staff person, but
that's good. They're clear. And you don't want to cast people aside.
No.
Without thought, but it's like, here's where we're going, and you have the choice to be in or out, and we'd love to have you, but this is where we're going.
They got to get on board. They got to be on board with where the train's going. So another example, though, from an organizational perspective, I was contracted to do a strategic planning for a large international foundation, and their founder had just passed away. So this whole thing was being run by the founder, and they had volunteer staff.
And I'm just
And
thinking, let's apologize just time wise,
sure,
because
we
this
can
one's
set
kind of
that
a
one
little out of
as,
scope to kind of be
sure, we can
real
set that one
concise
aside.
about that one.
Yep. But it works from all angles, all
Okay.
sides of the
Okay.
organization.
So your point being you can
Yes.
scale,
Yeah,
you can scale
yes.
it. Yeah.
Scale from, well, you know, a solopreneur might not always be a solopreneur.
Right. Yeah.
It might
You
become
may or may not want to grow your business, but if it does, you want to make sure that you
yes,
are doing it, staying in integrity with your path.
yes, yes.
So I could say, what are some specific roadblocks to watch out for? But I think we kind of covered a lot of that.
Right. Well, the biggest roadblock is just not believing you have to do it, or confusing it with business planning or operational planning. Because there's elements of strategic planning that are part of a business plan, in terms of the vision, your market research. But an operational plan is actually a piece that comes out of strategic planning.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to get confused and say, oh, those are all the same, because they use different types of thinking. The front end piece of this is the strategic thinking about where do you want this business to go? Then how will you get there?
Yeah.
And identifying the priorities, because that's what gets lost in the operational planning. The operational planning grows out of the strategic plan.
And what is in and out of the operational plan is guided by, okay, here's a strategy, here's the key objectives. Are what we're doing operationally aligned with moving us in that direction and not anything extraneous or taking us somewhere else?
Exactly. Keeps you focused on the priorities.
Yeah.
Because there's certainly lots of distractions.
You think?
Yes. And a lot of people that are anxious to take your money to help you do something.
Yeah.
But if it's not moving you in the direction you want to go.
Yeah, especially as a solopreneur. Yeah, you can get really sucked up in that.
Yes, you can. Yeah, especially in the online world. It's just
so
distraction.
If you go back to when you were 18, and because I mean, yeah, your brain's still kind of forming when you're 18. It's like you wish you had like the 30-year-old sort of maturity at 8, so anyway, if you go back and tell your 18-year-old self, like give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, it's just such a wonderful question. If I were 18, I would love someone to say to me, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But to actually have somebody say that to you, you have to believe it yourself. So the real key insight is believe in yourself. Because when you believe in yourself, you can make those things happen that you want to happen. Yeah. And for solopreneurs, it's all about believe in yourself, because that's how it gets reflected in your business. Yeah. And I think back to 18, and it's such a confusing world in the beginning. Well, even as you're moving through it. Yeah. If someone had just said to me, Judy, you can be a business owner if that's what you choose. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of resources available to help you, but you have to believe that you can do it. Yeah. And once you believe you can do it, your subconscious goes to work. Yeah. And it just
and there are actually there's some ways to build that confidence. We won't get into it, but
yes, that's a whole topic for mindset and the power of your subconscious. Yeah. So I wish somebody had said that to me, because you come through.
I understand.
And you enter the world, and it's like, oh my.
it's like this confidence. It's confidence.
Yes. Part of the confidence is built through the success you start to begin to have when you're starting a career or a role in the working world. Yeah. And yes, and success kind of breeds success. I mean, there's a mindset shift.
So,
Yeah, and it all goes back to believe in yourself, because your first success has to come from believing you can do it, whatever
yeah,
that little tiny step might be.
yeah, yeah. So we covered a lot. But is there a question that I should have asked you that I didn't? And if so, how would you answer it?
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe the only question would be, I mean, you asked about my story, but I guess the question would be, now looking back at the 30 years I've had in business, would I do this again?
Mm, great question.
And
Yes. And so what would you do?
well, I definitely would do it again. Absolutely do it again, because it has provided me with so many, well, first of all, so many learnings, because
Yeah.
every day there's a new thing I'm learning. And even after 30 years, because business keeps changing and evolving. But it's also provided me, I'm going to say, a lifestyle, and I don't mean financial lifestyle, although having revenue coming in is a piece of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it's a lifestyle where I can use my skill sets, do the work, choose the work that I love to do. I don't have to be in an employment situation where I'm assigned, this is what you will do. I can choose to use what I call my natural innate gifts and use those, which then makes work enjoyable.
Yes.
It makes work more fun. And
Yeah.
so from that perspective, yes, I would definitely do this again. Plus, long term, when you look at being a business owner, it provides you much more, what's the right term? You would know it, Eric. Economic growth and
Mhm.
opportunity to build your legacy with your family, your children, or whoever you choose that to be,
Yeah.
than if I were still an employee. So there's that piece. And it also provides me flexibility to some extent, not where I can be gone every day of every week yet, but there's a possibility down the road for that also. There is a structure that could allow me to do that.
Yeah.
But it provided me flexibility when I was responsible for the care of my aging parents.
Mm.
Or if someone in the family needs surgery or is sick,
Yeah.
I can kind of arrange my schedule.
Yeah.
To make, to have that flexibility. So for anybody who's thinking about it, this is the other piece of information. Just go do it. It goes back to that 18-year-old. Just go do it.
Yeah. And
if
as
you
you
don't
do
like
it,
you can change.
have a little bit of a strategy in mind that you work back into an operational thing that's going to kind of move
Yes.
you in that direction with some
Well,
reliability.
here, that's the beauty of strategic planning.
Yeah.
Is, when you're really doing it, yeah, you're thinking about the game plan that's going to move you forward. But part of strategic thinking is, okay, if that's not going to work, then what? So you do what's called scenario planning.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about different possibilities before you make your choice. And yes, you need a backup plan.
I'm so with you on all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just dip your toe and go do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to transition. If you're not already a solopreneur, there's a lot of ways to transition into being one. You don't have to cut the cord immediately. You can.
And that is another whole conversation.
It certainly is. And a whole different strategy about how you go about it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm just mindful of time, and that's the only reason why, because we could talk for another hour easily. And there's so much depth that you can provide. But I think maybe what we'll do is say, I'm sure that people will want to reach you. So how can people contact you?
Okay, they could email me, Judy at centerforstrategicchange.com.
That's the American spelling of center, CENTER.
Yes, good point. Good point.
Yes.
And just realize when you spell that all out, strategic ends with a C And change starts with a C. So when you're looking at the URL, there are 2 C's. Yes, Center for Strategic Change.
I found it's helpful to actually capitalize the words in
Yes,
that
that helps a lot.
first thing. That way you can sort of see.
Yep, I do that for people when I'm sending it if they've not seen it before. It's
So it's
capitalized.
Judy at centerforstrategichange.com, right?
.com. Mhm.
And a little birdie suggested that maybe you have a little gift for our audience.
Oh, I do. I have a booklet that I've put together, an ebook called Guide to Strategic Planning. And it's a series of articles that helps you understand like reasons why smart companies do strategic planning, or streetwise tips if you're thinking about starting a strategic planning project, streetwise tips, and a series of other articles. So it's a guide for strategic planning. And the easiest way to get that is just email me, Judy at centerforstrategicchange.com, and I'll be happy to send it right off to you.
That's so awesome. Well, this is great, Judy.
Well,
It's been such a pleasure.
It's just great to have an opportunity to talk with you and your listeners about this, because I've just seen the benefit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So this is a topic that's dear to my heart too.
Mhm.
So thank
Yeah,
you.
it's that clarity. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. You too.